Hello and welcome back. So this is the follow-up pod for the Lukas Michel podcast. We couldn't manage to fit it all into the last podcast because we had so much to talk about with him. In the first podcast, if you haven't seen it or heard it yet, we talked about his journey into golf, how he got into golf, and his victory in the Mid-Am, which got him into the Masters and the US Open. So if you haven't checked that pod out, check it out. And this is the continuation of the Lukas Michel pod where he talks about the Masters and his love for course architecture. I hope you enjoy.
Watch this. No way!
Just going back, I guess this is a good segue into your interest in golf course architecture. But 5 days prior to the Mid-Am, you got there to acclimatise and get used to, obviously the time difference and whatnot. And you ended up playing Sandhills in Nebraska, didn't you?
Elaborate on that. Yeah, I knew Denver had a bit of altitude, so I figured I should probably get there a little early because people said, you got to take like a few days to get used to it all. And then I was chatting to Mike Clayton, golf architect, and he is good friends of the course superintendent there. And so when I was heading over, Mike made contact with him, and put me in touch, and then told him which dates I was going, and then I was able to head out to Sandhills, and it's a 5-hour drive from Denver, so it's not a small trip, but worth every second of that drive. I mean, the drive itself is actually pretty cool as well. The last hour, you're just driving through like bold sand dunes.
Really?
Looks
Was
like
that just you on your own? You just
looks like
just
you're
drove
in
there on
like
your own?
Yeah, all by myself. I was obviously going to meet the superintendent out there, so at least have someone to meet over there.
Yeah.
But spent 5 hours in the car, got there eventually. Last hour or so was just like these sweeping sand dunes, like you're in the boldest part of Scotland or Ireland. And then rolled in, very understated driveway, and fortunately was sorted it out with the assistant super. He managed to play the round with me there that afternoon, and he'd been working there since he was 14. So he's a caddy.
Really? Wow.
He's a caddy there from 14 to 18, and then he became an apprentice greenkeeper, and then eventually became the assistant superintendent. And I think he's like 27 or 28 now, so he's still fairly young to have that job. And he was a great guy. He knew every single slope on that whole property. So he was showing me these shots like, if you chip it from over here and chip it up that hill, it feeds down to here. And it was awesome to see it from a guy like him.
Really?
So I spent the afternoon there, and then funnily enough, met a couple Aussies that were there. 4 Aussies were on a trip from a golf course in Melbourne.
Oh, wow.
Ended up having dinner with those guys. Yeah, literally in the middle of Nebraska, 4 Aussies from Melbourne. So I had dinner with those guys, and then next morning got up early, met with the course superintendent. Just literally as the sun was rising, I walked out there, took a few photos, had a good chat to him, and then sort of went on my way that afternoon and got back to Denver.
Yeah, you put some pretty nice photos on your Instagram. I saw of you playing it sort of kind of dusk, or I don't know whether it was in the early morning.
Yeah, that was the night before.
Yeah,
it was incredible. Like clear skies. I've got a drone actually. I was going to fire that one up, but the morning was. I was hoping it would be really clear, but it was overcast, so the drone photos weren't great. But yeah, I mean, incredible place. Golf course is as good of fun golf courses I've played. Like we've got a lot of golf courses on similar land in the Mornington Peninsula.
Yeah,
about an hour and a half south of Melbourne. Very like eerily similar land, but yeah, we don't quite have something the quality of Sandhills, and the experience as well. The lodging, it's awesome. Like there's these incredibly sort of, I don't know, they're not overly luxurious, but they're just right. So the lodging, and it's fairly cheap. I mean, not everyone can go there. You need to know someone to get you there, and I was fortunate to have that connection. But the course that, once you're there, they don't treat you like royalty either. They just treat you like a human being. And it was just, it was a really cool experience.
And so you were introduced by Mike Clayton, who is he's a good friend of yours. He's obviously a very well regarded golf course architect, and you know him through Metro. Is that right?
Yeah. So when I moved from Perth, I was a member at Lake Carrinup Country Club. And funnily enough, in 2006, 2007, Lake Carrinup went through a renovation of their golf course to sort of put it back to how Alex Russell wanted it to be. And the architect who did that was Mike Clayton and his company. And then that sort of caught my interest. And I'd always been like, a kid that had drawn a lot and drew a lot of golf holes and kind of mucked around drawing that. But that was the first time I kind of got interested in golf architecture. And I remember going on a few course walks with the architect as they were building it and watching it happen. It really fascinated me. And then fast forward sort of 4 or 5 years, and I moved to Melbourne and I joined Metro, and sitting in the clubhouse and see a guy, and I'm like, oh, that's Mike Clayton. And then I went and chatted to him, and it turns out he's a member at Metro. And we kind of got talking, and then we ended up playing a bit. And then he's a guy that just loves playing golf. Never really hits any golf balls. Probably the least technical guy you've ever seen.
Really?
Unfortunately, a little different to us, Brucey.
Yeah.
But a great player and just plays golf almost every day. I reckon he'd honestly could possibly hold the record for most rounds golf played, or holes of golf played, because he plays an unbelievable amount. Because his theory is that if you stop playing, you get shit at it. So his theory is, he's 62 or 63, so he just plays as much as he can, just to make sure he's good. And he's still really good. But yeah, we sort of got chatting, got playing. Kind of, he sort of suggested a few books I should read and a few websites like Golf Club Atlas, and then I kind of got really, really interested in it and really into it. And then I started traveling a bit more, and I'd play tournaments, and I'd try to look at what tournaments I could play. And then we're lucky in the amateur circuit. There's a lot of good courses we play. The Scottish Stroke Play this year is at Muirfield, and got the St Andrews Links Trophy. Irish Amateur was at County Down for a few years. It's incredible what you can play as an amateur. And like I said before, the US events are great too. So that kind of, when I started seeing, growing up not growing up, but playing a lot on the Sandbelt as well. The exposure to great golf there, it's hard to ignore. So I just felt like I got a really well-rounded kind of experience in golf architecture and became really, really interested in it.
Are you playing in any of those opens before or this year?
I'm looking at the Scottish Stroke Play at Muirfield, and then possibly into the St Andrews Links Trophy, because St Andrews Links finishes about the 7th of June, and the US Open starts the 19th of June. So it could be a good way to a lead-in couple tournaments, and then fly from Edinburgh or whatever to
break up the travel a bit.
New York, which is one flight. Yeah. So it could be a good little way to go about it. I'm definitely looking at it. I'm trying as well to possibly get a start in Japan in a pro event, because I'm sort of scouting out Japan as a possible place I'd like to play pro golf. So I'm sort of got a few things on my table, but yeah, every chance that I'll be at the Scottish Stroke Play and St Andrews Links too.
What's the appeal about Japan? What's driving you to want to go play some golf over there?
I studied Japanese at high school, so my language skills are they're not great, but they could get me around a little bit, and then I'd like to improve them too. But the Japanese tour is a really good golf tour. I've got a friend that plays there. The money's really good, and the level of competition is good, but it's not in proportion to the money that they give out. The Japanese love golf, and yeah, it's also, the other thing as well is it's the same time zone as Australia, and it's a single flight. Australia is kind of the most isolated place in the world, and if you want to play on an international golf tour, it's tough. So Japan's a really good sort of stepping stone in a way. if I wanted to
I
get
think
to the
Rio,
PGA Tour
Rio,
or the
Rio
European.
Ishikawa. He's the
Yeah, he
well,
plays over there.
yeah, he's been around for a while, hasn't he? He was sort of Japan's next.
There's a
next
bunch of
biggest
Aussies
thing.
actually over there you'd never have heard of as well, and they make good money over there, and you couldn't pick them off the street. You wouldn't know who they are. It's a good tour. They treat you well, from what I've heard from my friend, and yeah, it's just a really good place to play. Hopefully the coronavirus stays away for long enough.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Sam and Tom were chatting about that a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, just saying the effect it's had on even Challenge Tour starts and having to alter the schedule, which is crazy. So hopefully that dies down soon. But yeah, I guess what's interesting there is there aren't really that many top level amateurs like yourself who probably appreciate golf course architecture in the way that you do. And I guess the irony is that the better you get, if you end up going into the professional tour, a lot of the ordinary courses there actually aren't as good as what you play in the top level amateur game, are they?
Yeah, no. If you're really interested in golf course architecture, you're probably better off staying amateur. Yeah, the pro courses. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that come into play, I think, there. And if someone wants to hold a tournament and they put up this money, and I mean, you're not going to say no. But yeah, the amateur game definitely is it's very lucky, and the courses we get to play and the opportunities as well. Because I mean, some of these places are really expensive to play golf at, or you just can't get on them. And amateur tournaments, when they hold them there, it's a little easier to get access, which is nice.
And you mentioned earlier on you're really big into your drone and your photography and stuff. Is that something that you would like to pursue? When you turn pro, you can do some more of your photography and take it a bit more seriously.
Yeah. I mean, my gear isn't great. I mean, I've got probably the base model DJI drone, and got a camera I've had since 2012. But it still takes pretty good photos. It's probably not something I'd do anything commercial with, but yeah, it's something I'm definitely interested to do on the side, and sort of, yeah, it's something I enjoy.
But for our listeners that don't follow you on Instagram, you need to get on and look at Lucas's Instagram. Some of his photography is genuinely amazing, and I think
the drone stuff's good.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get a bit nausea here, but the composition is all really good. The lighting's really good. It's just some quality images there. You obviously got talent for it. So this
is very much Tom's field.
Yeah, from one professional to another.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
but no, you obviously got a talent for it. It'd be good to see if you can, you can extend that when you're traveling more.
I assume you're not going to get the drone out at Monday at the Masters on the road.
Does it shoot video?
Not.
You could
I'm
video.
not sure
Yeah,
Excuse me, boys. I'm just going to fly this one up.
Shoot either. Yeah, just ignore me.
You could do the Eric Anders Lang and just let the drone hover in front of you and see if you can hit it from 50 yards.
So just going back to
I'll try to avoid getting put in jail while I'm there.
So yeah, I guess going back to the just returning briefly to the architecture side of things and the link with professional golf. Do you think that the traditional styles of golf, a lot of the classic designs of the great architects, are really under threat, like people are saying? I mean, obviously the distance debate is pretty recent news and being talked about a lot in the world of golf at the moment. So I guess it'd be interesting to get your perspective, not only as an architecture enthusiast and a great player, but also what you know from the engineering side of the game.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. Obviously, the courses aren't playing like they were designed to play, and I think that's an issue. And I think there's, golf should be interesting for the players playing the golf courses, even at a professional level. And when bunkers are no longer relevant and they need to be moved all the time to challenge them, I just think there has to be a point where you just can't keep changing the golf courses. You can't keep lengthening them, especially with, restrictions or, I suppose restrictions on acreage and fertilizer usage and all these chemical usage. Like, you really have to make golf courses shorter, I think, or at least keep them at the same length. They can't keep getting longer.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I think the only way you can achieve a good balance and keep the courses interesting for everyone is if you I guess you have to limit technology in some way. That's sort of how I see it. I mean, a lot of people, Brandon Chambly and others, have different perspectives, but they sort of put the challenge to the architects to say, oh well, it's your job to make the courses more difficult and more interesting for the players. But I mean, there's only so much you can do with a given piece of land, and I think the golf courses, the guys designing them back in the 1930s had a pretty good idea of what they were doing, because I mean, all the courses designed back then are still, I'd say probably 70% of the ones in the world top 100 are probably designed in that golden age. So if you if they become irrelevant, then you've lost a real important sort of part of history of golf.
Do you have a set of courses from a particular architect that when you play them, you're like, I just love this architect's golf, the way that he designs courses?
I mean, the courses of Melbourne, the Melbourne Sandbelt, it's hard to look past those. I mean, Alice McKenzie, even though he was only in Melbourne for, I think, 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah, they were done like
but the
sketches,
influence that he had.
They were almost kind of like sort of he visited and gave him a blueprint, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, the sketches obviously would have been some help for the people building it, but I think what McKenzie really did well was he chose really good people to build his work. So, like, in Melbourne, he had Alex Russell and Mick Morecambe, who ended up building lots and lots and lots of the golf courses in Melbourne, not just the ones that are really well known. And the level of architecture in Melbourne is so much greater than any other city in Australia. And then Mackenzie went to, America, and he had Robert Hunter and he had Perry Maxwell and he had all these other architects that helped him along as well. So Mackenzie's stuff's really interesting, I think, because he had a real ability to find other people who worked well with him, and that gave him the ability to maybe influence them in a way that made them build his work to the sort of level that he gets praised for now. So, yeah, I think Mackenzie's stuff is the most impressive.
And Clayton's a bit of he's obviously a big Mackenzie enthusiast, and
Tom Doak as well, I think.
Yeah, Tom Doak.
Speaking of which, just going tying these threads together, so to speak. How did you? Because you went and watched the President's Cup, didn't you? When it was at Royal Melbourne a few months ago. How did you sort of gauge how the pros were playing that? I know it's match play, and we can't really get the best idea of scoring, but that's a fairly short course, isn't it, by professional standards? And yet, because of the undulations and how firm and fast it plays, is that maybe a kind of realistic solution to some of these issues we see around distance? Because you got people like Chambly and Scott Fawcett, who I like a lot of his stuff, but I think the idea of just growing really heavy rough around the fairways isn't kind of how these architects envisage the courses as being designed, and it's certainly not going to be enjoyable for the kind of average golfer. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Royal Melbourne, the setup there it's pretty cool, and it's pretty extreme too. So obviously it's a short course. I think it's the composite layout that they're playing. I think it's around 6,200 meters, so what's that, 6,900 yards. So it's fairly short, and it's got a fair bit of slope on it, so the ball can run a bit. Probably not as much as you'd expect on the fairways. They've planted a certain grass type actually that limit the amount of roll on the fairways, but yeah, the greens get really firm there. I think the issue with the greens there is, I mean, the upkeep on keeping them as firm and as fast as they are it'd be interesting to know if it would be possible at most golf courses, because, I mean, Melbourne's blessed to have, I was chatting to the course superintendent from the Sandhills actually about it. The sand type that we've got in the Melbourne Sandbelt is very, very unique. So it's a very fine particle that stacks up really well. So that's how you get those bunkers that have such sharp, steep faces.
You pretty much
also means that
you pretty much got runoffs between the green and the bunker. So for anyone listening, it's just clean edges.
Yeah, there's no fringe. So you basically run from green straight into bunker edge, and they've got these sharp faces that are really steep, and it's really only possible because of the sand type that Melbourne's blessed with. And that also means that the greens really compact really hard, the sand of the greens. And so you get these really firm surfaces that I think probably are very unique to the Melbourne sandbox. I mean, they're firmer than anything I've seen anywhere. Like, I mean, links golf gets really bouncy, but these get like almost like tabletops. Like
Really? Yeah.
the ball just doesn't react to them. So I think it's just such a unique setup, and I don't know if it. The other thing, Melbourne gets very limited rainfall, and it's very consistent month to month throughout the year. So we generally don't get these massive storms that mean the greens get soft either. So it's kind of it's a perfect kind of scenario where the superintendents are able to get the greens really, really firm and really fast. And I think I don't think many courses would have the opportunity to set themselves up like Royal Melbourne and some of the other sandbox can. And then the problem with growing rough...
It's just crying out for a World Golf Championship, isn't it?
The problem with growing rough as well on golf courses is, if anything, I think it favours the long hitters, because the long hitters are just going to hit it as far down there as they can, and a wedge out of the rough is going to be better than a 7-iron or a 6-iron. It definitely doesn't get players laying up if the rough's really long. It gets them almost trying to hit it further.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of opinions on what they should do, but I don't think rough's a solution, and I'm not sure firmness is an option either. I think the only option really to retain the integrity is to dial back the ball a little bit or the equipment a little bit. But that's a tough one because of all the politics and all that with the equipment manufacturers and having to re-machine everything and to be able to create different products is another thing. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's a very complex issue.
It seems very difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One course that has been lengthened quite a lot over the last few years is Augusta National, and it would be remiss of us if we didn't ask you about the Masters and how you're finding the sort of preparation process and what your expectations are leading into the week. Am I right in thinking you've played a practice round there already?
Yeah. So I went there end of December, just before Christmas. I was there for a few days, played the course 4 times. Setup was, a little softer and a little slower than what it'll be around the tournament, but it was really useful just to see some of the tee shots, see the sort of shots I'll need to hit around the golf course. As much as everyone tells you, it's this hilly and you need to draw it and you need to do this, you need to do that, being able to see it with my own eyes and to know exactly what I need to work on was a lot more valuable than kind of hearing from 20 people that I still trust, but until you see it with your own eyes, it's hard to really believe it. I spent 3 days there, played the course 4 times. The place is incredible. Everyone knows that, but it was really a surreal experience.
So do you just email them and you just say I won the mid amateur, I'm expecting exemption, can I come and play? Do you kind of play with anyone, or do you play on your own, or how does that process work?
Yeah, so I got a letter in the mail in November, and that said basically that I was welcome to come to the club and practice, even though I hadn't received my official invite, which came in January. They kind of told me I was invited without giving me the invite yet. So I was able to call up the club, arrange 3 days. They cap you at 5 days of unaccompanied play. So I used 3 of those up, teed off with the assistant pro in my first round there, which was really cool. He's a great young guy. He's probably only 27, 28 years old. And he's got a pretty good job. So he teed up with me. He hit a good ball too. So it was good to sort of watch him go around the place and get a few tips off him. And then spent the afternoon on the par 3 course, just in a few pitch shots and mucking about. And then, the first day there was about as good of an experience as I could have. And then the second day was sort of more serious in terms of trying to learn the course, and went out there with sort of on my own with my caddy, not the caddy I'm going to have for the tournament, but just one of the local caddies, and really tried to learn this place, back to front for the whole day, dusk till dawn.
What were the key takeaways? What were the key takeaways from your perspective there? I mean, obviously we hear, a lot of the sentiments about it's a second shot golf course, fairly generous off the tee, but you can't really be pin high because of the undulations and it's tough to walk. As you mentioned earlier, you got to draw it. Did any of those sort of stack up? Or?
Yeah, I mean, second shot golf course, I agree. Like that, you've got to be very precise with your shots into the greens because the greens are very segmented, and there's lots of, even though they're fairly large, there's a lot of sections, and if you hit the wrong section, it's going to be a difficult two-putt. So definitely the second shot golf course holds true. Tee shots being wide, I mean, I sort of agree with, although there's some very demanding tee shots. Like, I mean, the second tee shot, it depends what you hit. You can play conservative, but the second tee shot, if you want to hit driver there, you've got to slot it. Same as 11, same as 10 even. You've probably seen the seventh hole. The seventh hole is one of the narrowest holes I've ever seen. Like, it's so narrow. I managed to hit the fairway there. I played it 3 days in a row and hit the fairway 3 times, but it was like,
really
one of the narrowest tee shots on a championship course.
Fist pumping your driver as you walked off the tee box.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
And that's got quite a severe slope on the green, hasn't it? Do they tend to put the pin front right on the Sunday?
Funny. The seventh it's such a shallow green. It's got a fair bit of slope. You're right, but it's kind of like the 12th. The 12th is, it can't be more than like 7 or 8 paces long at some point. Like it's so shallow. So, you've got to be really precise with your club selection to that one. But yeah, I mean, some of the tee shots were definitely more demanding than I expected. Certainly the place has been sort of dialed up a bit to try and make it a little bit more demanding off the tee. I reckon when Mackenzie built it with Bobby Jones, it probably had a bit more width than it does today. But that's just the nature of hosting a tournament and trying to challenge the best players in the world. You really got to give them a few shots where they really have to hit a good drive.
And what about the undulations? I mean, you mentioned earlier at Colorado, you felt like you had an edge on the field with just, being able to calculate the changes in elevation and the appropriate club selection you needed to make quicker than a lot of your fellow competitors. And a lot of the guys at Augusta always, post pictures of their yardage books and how detailed they are. Is that something that you feel like you've got to be similarly quick and sharp on making those adjustments for elevation?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely a hilly golf course, and everyone warns you before you go there or tells you, it's so much hillier than it looks on TV, and they're right. But with that said, it's sort of what I expected it to be in terms of elevation change. I mean, the only one that really shocked me was probably the downhill nature of the 10th tee shot, which I didn't realize how far down it went quickly. It's really like hitting off a cliff.
Really?
But yeah, for sure, being able to calculate those elevation changes and the yardage books. I mean, they gave me a yardage book when I got there, and it's really funny because the yardage books they give you, the tournament yardage books, have no slope measurements in them. So you've got to do it all yourself with a rangefinder and go out there and figure it out. And they've got no contour lines or anything like that on the greens.
Wow.
It's really, really interesting. Like, they leave it all to you to sort of figure out, which I think I really like. I'm not a big fan of those greens maps. I think that takes away a bit of the skill of reading putts.
I was going to say
that's quite refreshing.
I was going to say you're obviously a very good putter. Sort of early feelings on the greens. Are they that drastic as they look? I personally thought they were going to be more tilted, but like I said, there's lots of segments and lots of big, bold slopes in them. But yeah, I mean, I was chatting to my caddy and we were sort of reading putts together, and I'm an aim point guy actually. So I read it all with my feet and sort of combined with the caddy I was sort of chatting to, he was like, you read these putts great. Really? You read the greens great. So I think aim point is actually an advantage there because the slopes of the property is so broad. Sometimes your eyes fool you with, taking into account other sort of visuals. It's almost like optical illusions on the greens there sometimes. So, you see the background slope moving that way, and then you see the green looks
different to the background. And then because the green looks different to the background, you think it goes one way and not the other. Whereas I think with aim point, because it's all field based in your feet, you kind of, I pretty much shut my eyes when I'm reading a putt. And I actually felt like I read the putts really well. So it'll be interesting, yeah. Obviously, the speed of the greens will dial up a bit, and I'll probably have to be, a little bit more careful with the putting. But I felt very, very comfortable on the greens.
And in terms of getting closer to the week itself, have you got any practice rounds lined up yet, or any other fellow Aussies? Or
yes, yeah. Well, I'm going over, like I said before those tournaments. I'll actually be there for 5 or 6 days. But I've just heard word that Jason Day and Mark Leishman are going to be there for a day or two at the same time I'm there.
Okay, brilliant.
So it'd be great to link up with those guys then. Probably won't play a practice round at that point, but probably will try to organise something for tournament week, which would be really cool. Because, Leishman's, he's sneaky good at Augusta.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much there, Lucas. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I got absolutely slammed by Sabri.
I know. I actually listened to that one, I listened to that and I thought the same. I was like, hey, he's not too far off the mark here, because he's had some ordinary results, but he's also had some really good ones.
Always
and
worth an each way
well.
bet. Exactly.
Yeah, he's playing great. He's a good all-rounder. And the people who go well seem to have been around for a while as well, don't they? Generally.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good call.
Leishman's a big fan of the pod.
Yeah. I'll show him the pod when I hopefully get to meet him.
And in terms of the logistics, when you go over, you obviously taking your parents over and a couple of close friends, maybe caddy. Will Davenport, is that he's going to be on the bag that week?
Yeah, so Will's on the bag. We chatted at the mid-am before the final, and I think I told him the day before the final, I was like, you've been so great, thanks a lot, Will. I haven't sort of committed to anyone for caddying at Augusta, but I didn't tell him, you're a lock, but I said, you're every chance as good as anyone. I think you'd be great on the bag at Augusta, but I haven't. Let's just see how we go tomorrow, kind of thing. And then before I played the next day, I said, you know what, Will, if I win today, we're going to Augusta. You're caddying, and he was thrilled. I think he was almost more excited than me when I rolled in that putt on the last.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great guy. I met him in Melbourne. He was working for a company down here in Melbourne, and did like a year transfer from the Miami office down to Melbourne. So played a bunch of golf with him down here, and then sort of caught up with him a few times in the US when I'd been through. I mean, he's living in Philly at the moment, so I went through and we played Philly cricket together, which is a great course. But
that's on the list.
Kept in touch, and then when he qualified for the mid-am, awesome, and then turns out he's on the bag, and we end up winning together. So
have you got your room booked in the Crow's Nest?
Well, yeah, I'll have to check if there's any windows as well, won't I?
Come on.
I'm going to stay there for, I think, Sunday and Monday night. I mean, you guys haven't seen it, but the place is it's tiny. This Crow's Nest, literally, it's not much bigger than a Crow's Nest. It's a really small room. It's really kind of just one room with side rooms that have beds in them. It's completely original, I think, from 1934 or whenever the place was built. So it doesn't have everything you kind of need if you want to stay there for the week. So, and I think it's got one shower.
I've seen a few pictures.
Yeah. So if there's multiple people staying there, there's one shower. So if you getting up for a tea time at this time and someone else is before you, it's it just doesn't really work logistically. So
it's a little bit claustrophobic.
Yeah, I've actually got a house sorted. There's an Australian touring company that sorted me out with a house. So for me and my family and Will and a couple others. So that's the plan. Stay off site, probably 5-minute drive from the course, and kind of just driving every day and drive down Magnolia Lane.
Absolutely.
That sounds incredible. And of course, the par 3 as well. Are you gonna play in that?
Yeah, I'll play in that. I've got another close friend caddying for me in the par 3, which would be great fun. I've also got the 16 members from my home club who coincidentally booked a trip for 2020,
really?
last year at some point, and they're all going. So I'll have a bit of a support crew too. It's going to be incredible.
Well, I think just to
massive good luck. I think it'd be fair to say. It's rare you're going to hear an Englishman sort of cheering on an Aussie, but I think this is going to happen in April. So we really do root for you.
We'll all be behind you.
Yeah, we'll be. We'll be rooting for you, Lucas, and watching your progress.
Thanks so much.
So best of luck over the next few weeks with the preparation, and thanks again for coming on the podcast and being so generous with your time. It'd be great to check in with you maybe after you've played it and see how it stacked up compared to your expectations. And thanks so much.
No, looking forward to having another chat sometime soon. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the support. Hopefully I can play well.
I'm sure you will.
Sure you will, mate.
Every faith, mate.
Looking forward to it. Okay. Thanks very much.
Watch this.